close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Star Sport podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. We have a packed show for you today with the focus being unsurprisingly on Cork football. In part 2 we'll be joined by ex-Cork footballer Diarmuid Duggan to look ahead to the senior clash between Cork and Roscommon this weekend in the last round of the Super 8s.
We'll also ask Diarmuid about their season as a whole and whether or not it matters if Ronan McCarthy's side win their dead rubber game at Páirc Uí Rinn on Sunday.
But first, Kieran, there is only one place to start, and that's with the county's under-20s footballers who play Dublin in this Saturday's All-Ireland final in Portlaoise. You were in Tullamore last weekend for their incredible semi-final win over Tyrone on Sunday. So before we look ahead to the final, maybe tell us a little bit about the resilience that Keith Ricken's men showed at the weekend.
Jack, this was a totally different game to the Munster final where Cork blew Kerry away up in Páirc Uí Rinn on that Thursday night. Cork had to dig deep for this game. It was more about character, heart and guts really, because 3 minutes into the second half, Cork were down 7 points and Tyrone were well on top by that stage, and it looked like there was only one winner and Cork could have rolled over, just accepted what looked inevitable at that stage, because Cork had started well. I think they led 1-4 to 3 points after 12 minutes, but then Tyrone took over. At one point in the first half, Tyrone rattled off 7 points in a row and it was one-way traffic, and then when Tyrone tagged on those 3 points at the start of the second half to open up that 7-point gap, like I said there, it just looked like a Tyrone win was on the cards. But Cork dug so deep in. For Peter O'Driscoll, he was wing back there. He's the captain from Island Rovers. Up front, Jude Mark Cronin, Cathal O'Mahony were in top form again. Damien Gore played his part. Cork just dug their way back into this game, and it was fierce impressive because, as we all know, sometimes Cork teams can struggle against Northern teams with their style of play, but there was no fear this time. It was fierce impressive, and even in that second half, because it was end to end at times, Cork drew level, Tyrone would kick on again and go 2 points ahead. Cork came back again, but Tyrone went back ahead. But Cork never dropped their heads, and all their subs who came on made a big impact, and that was very noticeable the last day, that the strength that Cork have in depth when their subs came on. Even Jack Murphy, Aino Hanlon came on, Fionn Hurley came on from Dawn, he's got 2 points. Mark Hodnett from Carby Rangers came on, first touch of the ball, got a point. A few minutes later he caught a great ball out down by the near sideline. So the strength and depth, the character, the heart, a lot to admire about this Cork performance.
And I can only imagine, having come back from 7 points when they looked dead and buried, like, what were the scenes like at full time after they got back into the game, booked their place in the final? Were they overjoyed? Did they keep it under control, or how did they react?
No, there was big celebrations, and there should have been too, because it was such a great win, because they were dead and buried in the game. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's against a team like Tyrone, Ulster champions, and Tyrone had come through more. I think they played 5 championship games above, so they were battle hardened coming into this game. They had an extra week off more than Cork had. They led by 7 points in the second half, but despite all that, this Cork team came back and they won. So celebrations were as they should have been on the pitch after. It was just before the minor game as well, so you could hear the man in the ran over the Tannoy asking fans to leave the pitch, and he'd asked several times because so many Cork supporters were on the pitch too to celebrate, and it was great to see. It was another positive occasion for Cork football, but they don't have long now, Jack. They have to turn it around in a week.
Yeah, well, we're going to get your thoughts on the final in just a moment, but before we do, Dennis Hurley was at last night's press event previewing the game, and he spoke to members of the Cork camp.
Start with the semi-final. Was it a kind of game, let's say, that you learned a lot about yourselves, do you think, or was it something you already knew about yourselves and you just had to prove that you could do it?
Yeah, I think we were disappointed going in half time that we had a good start.
Yeah.
They clawed us back and they got a soft goal really against us.
Yeah.
So we were disappointed that we let them go in with a 4-point lead. But then Keith had a great talk with us at half time, and we knew we were able to dog it out in the second half.
Yeah.
And we knew we'd be able to come over their tackling.
Yeah.
So we just kept it simple in the second half, and once we got a run on them, I felt the crowd really lifted us.
Yeah.
And we kept the scores ticking, and Jack's goal was obviously unreal then.
Yeah. And was it a bit of complacency, do you think, like that after the good start there was a kind of a sense of, you've kind of given yourself a platform here and it'll be easy?
It's hard. I think their tackling was very good.
Okay.
And a lot of bodies back, and we just misplaced a few passes and took a few shots that weren't really on.
Yeah.
So we were disappointed. We kind of didn't use the ball as efficiently as we would have liked.
Yeah.
And as we did against Kerry. But then they swarm you and they kind of bottle you up and they dispossess you. Then they counter very quickly, so it's very difficult to get back and defend it. And there's a lot of space.
And that was probably a new experience for you because you didn't play in the Ulster team in the John Kearns.
Yeah, they bring a lot of physicality.
Yeah.
And they'd be kind of mouthing to you a lot as well. So
okay.
It's a different test, but you just have to.
Would you be giving it back, or would you just be ignoring it?
You'd have to give it back, right?
Yeah. I won't ask you for the specifics. But how valuable was the John Kearns tournament when you're playing?
It was fantastic.
Kerry, Galway, Kildare, and Dublin, wasn't it?
Yeah, because you're playing top opposition the whole time, and it's a fantastic standard, and it's very competitive as well, and it's great to use the huge panel that we had and give everyone a fair crack at the whip, really. So we used up a lot of numbers, and we didn't play any leaving starts. We let them study for leaving.
Okay.
So we just concentrated on ourselves, and it was a great competition to see what the other teams had, and playing tie matches against top and county teams, and then come championship, it's quite kind of what the standard is like then.
And like he drew with Kerry in the first game down in Clan.
We did.
And then you might have been expecting a close Munster final, but is it fair to say it was kind of beyond all your wildest dreams?
I think we progressed a lot after the Kerry game.
Okay.
I think we got a lot more kind of confident in ourselves and what we could do.
Right.
We had Damo coming back from the senior team then, and Cullum came back from the cruciate very well, and then obviously the bench, then we leave some starts with A and I come back midfield, and we had Fiona coming in for forward. So it's fantastic to have them back as well. And Kerry was just one of those games where everything kind of goes right for you on the day.
Yeah, like it probably feels like you're in a trance or something, does it? Like everything has just clicked so well. Like
you're just looking at Cahill take shots there from the sideline, the 20, and say over the bar, and Josh making some catches over the bar as well.
Yeah.
And just the dispossessions, the tackling was unreal against Kerry as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of went under the radar. A lot of the blocks and tackling that went in.
But
the scores was incredible from Mark and Cahill.
And obviously you've Dublin now at the weekend, and you played them in the John Kearns as well. Can you take much from that game?
No, it's kind of difficult. They were missing a couple of players, alright.
Okay.
Their two midfielders now weren't playing against us in the John Kearns.
Right.
The midfielder now is 6'7". He was with the Dublin senior team at the time, I think.
Okay.
But they had Archer in for forward.
Yeah.
Each caused a lot of trouble, so hopefully we'll be able to come up with a plan for him.
And for yourself then, when you're going to be going up against players who you didn't play against in the John Kearns, like what can you do in terms of research and kind of just preparing for the challenge?
Yeah, I think a lot is kind of playing your own game and hoping that they'll kind of worry about you more than you'll worry about them. So hopefully if you can get on top of them, that they'll have to kind of track your runs and be looking over their own shoulder rather than having them go forward the whole time then in midfield.
Yeah, and like for Cork to be in the All-Ireland final, I would say at the start of the year probably didn't seem like too likely a prospect to say, like, given that like Kerry would have won the equivalent minor championships and Keith was coming in late. Like, was there any one thing that you could pinpoint and say like was the thing that set it all in motion, or was it just like a cumulative amount of small little things?
Yeah, I think it was just the cumulative amount of small things.
Yeah.
The group got a lot closer as the years wore on, and we're all very good friends now as well.
Yeah.
Even when we're not training, we'll be meeting up with each other on our off days as well. We went down to Phoenix there, swimming down the tree there today.
Yeah.
So we're a very close group.
Okay.
And Keith kind of inspired us to become very close. And straight away, every single training at the start of the year, we had to go around and tell everyone each other's name, club, likes, dislikes, dogs, sisters, Stars brothers, you know.
Okay.
So he really kind of made us get close together as a group, and that really brought us on. And since then, we haven't really looked back.
And is that the key to Keith's management? Do you think, like, just kind of unlocking the person inside the player, let's say?
Definitely, he's a great manager. And we just kind of take everything he says as gospel, really.
Yeah.
You know, he comes in before training and he'd give us a little speech before every little training or every match, and you just soak it up and just listen to him.
Yeah.
It's great to have a manager like that you all look up to.
And like you mentioned what he said at half time against Tyrone, like, can you give us kind of the gist of what we said?
He just told us he'd never been so proud as a bunch of players, but we just need to go out and show what we can do, and just to open our shoulders and release the shackles and play the football like we know we can in training and like we know we can against Kerry.
Yeah.
And we just need to play not to lose but to play to win, and that was basically it.
Kieran, this under 20 side have been quietly going about their business all summer and now find themselves preparing for an All-Ireland final clash with the Dubs in Portlaoise. Firstly, having seen them in the flesh on Sunday and knowing what to expect to a certain extent from Dublin, how would you rate the Cork chances this weekend?
Obviously give Cork a big chance. Dublin will be favourites. One name we have to mention at the start is Kieran Archer. He's the Dublin forward who's shooting the lights out in this championship. I think it was a 3-8 against Laois in the Leinster final. He got 2-5 or 2-6 against Galway last weekend in the All-Ireland semi-final, and even in the couple of Leinster championship games before that, he was 2-4, 2-5, something like that. So he's a danger man that Cork have to look out for and try to keep quiet. But this Cork team, they'll just focus on themselves. Obviously, they're going to give Dublin a lot of respect, but they really look after themselves and they try and get that performance. They have the players, they have the strength and depth, and they have a very, very good manager in Keith Ricken. He's a very interesting character. He was parachuted in back in January after Gino Driscoll, who was Cork under-20 manager, resigned from the position. And even talking to Peter Driscoll a couple of weeks back, he said that Keith Ricken is like no other manager that he's had before.
So you can say that again.
It's just even talking to Keith, he's such an interesting character, and even in a recent conversation, he was just saying how he feels that confidence doesn't come from playing well. He said that's a very shallow veneer. He goes, confidence comes from knowing how to solve problems on the football field, and that's what he arms his players to do, to be able to solve problems when they're out in the field. So like he said, if your man is beating you, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to solve that? He puts the responsibility back on the player to solve that problem in training and so on. They'll obviously give advice and help the players and so on, but he believes that confidence comes from that ability to solve your own problem on the field. And against Tyrone, Cork were 7 points down. They had a problem, they solved it and they won by 2. So his methods and his philosophies, fierce, interesting, and you have to say they're working.
Yeah, so from your conversations then with some of the players and from seeing them in action at the weekend, can you see that they're carrying that responsibility well on their shoulders, in that he's obviously wants them to man up essentially and take responsibility, and you reckon it's rubbing off well?
It is, yeah. Kind of half time the last day in Tullamore, they were down 4 points, and the players spoke at half time that they needed to get back to basics, do the simple things right, that they weren't moving the ball like they should be. They were just running into Tyrone tackles and they were getting overturned. So they went out in the second half and they stuck to the game plan. They didn't get sucked into the mistakes that they made in the first half. So it's a team that learned from its mistakes in the first half and they didn't repeat them in the second half. So they're definitely learning. They're a very, very good team, Jack, to be fair, kind of from Maurice Shanley there from Clonakilty at full back. We mentioned Peter Driscoll wing back. In O'Hanlon came on as a sub the last day in midfield, and he'd missed the previous game through injury, so it was good to have him back in that full forward line of Mark Cronin, Cathal O'Mahony and David Gore. There's match winners there, kind of as much as Dublin have Kieran Archer. Cork have plenty of match winners themselves. I think we're in for a cracking game, to be quite honest. And this Cork team is high in confidence at the moment. They beat Kerry leading all the way. They've beaten Tyrone coming from behind. So they're kind of ready for, I suppose, whatever this final will throw at them on Saturday.
Okay, prediction time then, Kieran. Cork versus Dublin in the under-20s All-Ireland final.
I haven't seen Cork and haven't seen them against Tyrone. And like I mentioned, the skill and talent of them, but it was the heart and character that kind of stuck out for me. So I'm going to give Cork the nod in this one. We're going to bring down this capital juggernaut. This could be the first chip in their armour. So no, I can see hopefully a Cork win here.
Okay, very interesting stuff. Now, as mentioned earlier, the GAA have confirmed that O'Moore Park in Portlaoise will host an under-20 doubleheader on Saturday afternoon. At 2 p.m, Kilkenny and Cork meet in the under-20 hurling last four clash, followed by Dublin against Cork in the under-20 football final at 4 p.m. And if you cannot make it up to Portlaoise this weekend, both games will be televised live on TG Cahir. Coming up in part 2, we'll be chatting to ex-Cork footballer Diarmuid Duggan ahead of Cork's Super 8 clash with Roscommon this weekend.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Hi, we're joined here on the Star Sport Podcast by former Cork footballer and Island Rovers clubman Diarmuid Duggan. Welcome again, Diarmuid.
Thanks, Kieran.
Since we spoke to you last, and that was before the start of the Super 8s, Cork they've lost to both Dublin and Tyrone, but the devil's in the detail because it's a lot more positive than those two defeats suggest, Diarmuid. Tyrone and Dublin were last year's 2 All-Ireland finalists, and in fairness, Cork ran them close in both games, you can say.
Yeah, I think in the Dublin game, really, they played very well for about 60 minutes, did extremely well. I think it was probably inevitable that Dublin were always going to win, and we even said that a couple of weeks ago. Our hope was that they would stay with them for as long as they could. In the Tyrone game, they actually, and I know they were disappointed after that result, and Ron McCarthy in particular was very disappointed after it, because I think he felt it was one that got away maybe. That game, I suppose, they were actually well in control for long periods, and maybe it was just about a 5-minute spell just after half time when the game just all of a sudden slipped away from them. And I think a lot of that comes down to maybe experience, whereas if it was an experienced team and a goal was scored against them, maybe it was timed in, maybe a player to go down injured or something like that. Just you learn those kind of things after years of playing, maybe getting the Super 8s a couple of years in a row or getting the semi-finals. But I think as you mentioned there's huge positives to be taken from both of those games, definitely, in spite of the losses.
Like you said there about experience, and I remember just after the Dublin game above, I was underneath the Hogan stand waiting for the Cork footballers to come out, and some of them were coming out, and one of them asked someone, where do we go for the food? You go straight across into this different room. But it struck me, like, for a lot of those fellas, it was their first time playing in Croke Park, and even to kind of know the run of the building and stuff and how it works and where to go. Like, it was a new experience for them. And this is a relatively young Cork team, so they've now played twice in Croke Park. They played against the top teams like Dublin and Tyrone, and they've Roscommon this weekend. So like you said there, it's about experience, not only on the field but off the field, I think, just to get used to these big occasions. So that'll definitely help them in the future.
Yeah, definitely, because even when I think back to my own playing days, I joined the panel in, I think it was 2005, and at that time Cork were starting to build gradually, and 2005, 2006, 2007 they reached the All-Ireland final. 2008 they lost the semi-final. In 2009 they lost the final again, and eventually in 2010 they won it. But it took that length of time, and every year you could sense that Cork were getting closer and closer, just little by little. And it takes losses like those to learn something, and I know it's an old cliche, but sometimes you learn more from the losses than from the wins. And as long as Cork put these lessons, as long as they learn from these, then I think it's only going to augur positively in the future for them, I think.
How important so is it, Diarmuid, that Cork finished the Super 8s with a win at home to Roscommon? That's in Páirc Uí Rinn, 4 o'clock this Sunday. Is it important just to finish on a high note, given like how good the two performances were against Dublin and Tyrone?
Yeah, it's absolutely vital for them. I think for the rest of the country looking on, it's a dead rubber game, and nobody will care less who wins or loses. But for the two teams involved, and particularly Cork, I think it's vital. Cork have played 5 games so far, I think, is it? They've won only 2 actually, and they've lost 3 to Kerry, Tyrone and Dublin. So I mean, if they were to lose a fourth game, having only won 2, then it takes a little bit of the glass off the positivity then, you know. And I think as well, seeing as it is the final game of the season, I think that's important because, you know, if you think back to last year when they lost to Tyrone, they finished the season on a complete downer and on very much a low, and they carry that game with them all through winter when they're training. And when anyone brings up Cork football, it's always the last game you remember. So I think if they finish on a high here, even in terms of going back training in November, December, you know, it is that last game you always think about, because you know you are only as good as your last game. So if they can bring that into training and the positivity of having a good win, even just a win, but in particular a good win, then I think it'll be very positive for the young lads going back training next January and February again.
Because if we look at it, compare Cork where we are right now to where Cork were at the start of the championship, like it's like I was saying to you kind of off air there, the kind of mood music has changed an awful lot. Like kind of so many positives to take from the campaign so far. And I suppose one of the big ones is that this Cork football team seems like it's on the right track. Well, it is on the right track. We've seen the development over the last couple of months, so there are better times to come for this Cork team, Diarmuid, do you think?
The signs are there, but I mean, there's never any guarantees either at the same time. It could be a false dawn. I hope it isn't, and I don't think it is. But I mean, unless Cork actually build on this again, because ultimately they haven't won anything really. They've beaten 2 Division 3 teams, I think. So hopefully we can finish off with a win against Roscommon. But the mood is positive, definitely. But I mean, it's not a guarantee of success next year or anything like that. They definitely have to build on it, and I think they have to maybe inject and bring in a couple of players from that under-21 panel as well, which will strengthen it and you know, put pressure on fellas who are there again and up standards. So it is positive, but it's no guarantee of future success, I think.
You've got to mention they're building on what they've achieved in the championship this season. Cork will be in Division 3 of the Football League for the first time next year. They have to get promoted. They really do, because like they're up against, from playing the likes of Tyrone and Dublin and Kerry, with the greatest respect, Leitrim and Offaly's. It's not the same calibre, it's not the same test. So it's imperative that Cork get out of Division 3 at the first go, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be an obvious goal of theirs. You know, when they assemble at the beginning of the year, it's going to be a collective goal for them, I assume, win Division 3. And there should be no excuses, not even just get promoted, but just to win it, and win it in style probably as well, because they're a far better team than Division 3, and they probably in their own minds believe that they're a Division 1 team, which they probably are as well. So it's they've no excuses really. They have to win every game essentially really, and get promoted, I think.
Like we're saying there, it's been a lot of good news for the Cork senior footballers, but for the Cork under-20s too, they're through to the All-Ireland under-20 final this Saturday in Portlaoise against a very, very good Dublin team. Your own Island club man, Peter Driscoll, captain of the team, doing a fantastic job. Tell us a small bit more about Peter.
I suppose, well, first of all, I think we're very proud of him in Highland Rovers. He's a great role model for the younger kids in our club. He's a great guy. He trains very hard. He leads by example. You know, he's got great levels of fitness. He's a great skill level, great kick passer. And he's just a great trainer, and he leads by example. And like, you wouldn't be, if you turned up at the Island Rovers GA pitch training an underage team or something like that, it was surprising to see Peter out there with a bag of footballs just practicing point kicking or doing long runs across the pitch or anything like. So he's a very dedicated to his game, and I think for us in our club, we view him as a great role model for people coming up, so that they realise the level that if you want to be as good as you can be, that it takes that level of dedication and hard work. But I think from a Cork point of view as well, I think he's a role model to his teammates and to we'll say the under-18 teams coming up and other people. As I said, just to be as good as you can be, and like Peter leaves nothing ever on the field. You know, he gives it absolutely everything whenever he goes out. So you can never ask any more from a player really after that, you know. And let's hope he brings back the cup in a week's time.
Like, in fairness, Peter seems like a class act on and off the field, and I think he was even in Clonakilty on Saturday when Ireland won the Division 3 County Football League final against against Douglas. So even though he did an All-Ireland semi-final the next day against Tyrone, he was still there for the club on Saturday.
I think that's a great sign of a fella. And like Peter helps out in cool camps. I think earlier in the year actually we were struggling to find a minor management team in our club outside, and Peter just took it on him to do a number of sessions over a few weeks just to keep it going. And I mean he's very, very busy at the moment, you know, with Cork and 20 and club, his own playing with the club as well, but he found time to do that, you know. So I think it's a great sign of a player as well, that he's not forgetting where he came from and where he learned his trade, I suppose.
And in fairness to him too, Peter was one of the leading lights for Cork against Tyrone in the All-Ireland semi-final last Sunday. Cork were 7 points down early in the second half, but they came back to win by 2 points. And then couple that with the minors, you could say, trashing Monaghan after. I think it was 319 to 210, and that was quite emphatic. That was another good day for Cork football. So like the signs are encouraging. The minors are through to an All-Ireland semi-final. The under-20s are in an All-Ireland final. The seniors got through to the Super 8s for the first time. So hopefully we can build on these positives.
Yeah, and there's definitely an air of positivity. I think we mentioned a few weeks ago, but that air of positivity is continuing.
Yeah.
It's great to see underage success. Under 20 in particular, I think, because under 20, much more than minor level, is probably a better indicator of future success at senior level. I think, you know, in terms of national under 20s, I think is it Kerry have done it 3 in a row in the 70s, Cork did in the 80s, and future senior success came not long after those games. And I think even in this last decade, Dublin have won 4 under 20s and like hints their dominance at senior level now again. So I think if Cork in particular, if they can get it at under 20 level, but obviously, you know, they'll take anything. And I suppose at minor level, Cork haven't been successful since 2000, I think. So they're well overdue a victory there. So look, we're still a long way from winning anything. I suppose the under 20s are only an hour away, so hopefully we can get something there anyway, at least.
Like we said, positive times for Cork football with a busy weekend coming up this weekend again. Diarmuid, thanks for joining us.
No bother. Thank you, Kieran.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And now, Kieran, before you give us an idea of what we can expect in this week's sports section of the Southern Star, I just wanted to make reference to the fact that it is our 25th Star Sport Podcast, and so far over 10,000 of you have either listened to us or watched us on YouTube. So we just want to say a big thanks to everyone who's tuned in, and hopefully you've enjoyed the shows and you can spread the word. Spread. Yeah, maybe this will be the last time people will listen. Spread the word. Subscribe, leave us some 5-star reviews or 1-star reviews, whichever.
Please 5-star reviews.
5-star reviews, okay.
Are what we want. So 25 episodes, that's like an anniversary. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, quarter of a century anyway.
Is it golden or jubilee or silver or something?
I have absolutely no idea. Answers on a postcard.
Yeah, or email sport@thesouthernstar.ie.
Yeah, so anything you like or dislike about the show, don't be afraid to get in touch and tell us. And if there's something or some sport that you think we're not giving enough coverage to, let us know and we'll see if we can fix that, Kieran.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jack. Like you said, to any of our listeners out there or people who listen or watch, if they want us to talk about a certain subject or some sports story that we don't know about or a different topic, just get in touch. We're all ears here. So sport@southernstar.ie, please.
And so we'll just move along from that gushing and celebrating for now. Kieran, with Cork in action in the under-20s All-Ireland final, the seniors in action in the last round of the Super 8, the ladies having lost last weekend, Denzel Fernandez banging in the goals for Shelbourne, Jack Desmond crowning his recovering from a broken thumb after winning his second All-Ireland. There's a lot going on in this week's sports section.
You've really covered it all right there, Jack. You're going to do me out of a job. But no, it's again action-packed sports section, and as you'd expect at this stage of the summer, inter-county heavy. We have an interview with Ian Maguire, Cork captain, ahead of Cork's last Super 8s game against Roscommon on Sunday. Obviously a big build up to the Cork Under 20 against Dublin Under 20 All-Ireland final this weekend. We have to mention too that the Cork Minor footballers are through to the All-Ireland semi-final. They had a superb win against Monaghan in Tullamore last Sunday night. It followed on from the Cork Under 20s game, and again there was a lot of local lads involved in that, so congratulations to the Cork Minors. We have an interview with Fiona Keating from Cork Rovers. Fiona was presented with a Celtic Ross West Cork Youth Sports Star Quarterly Award last week, and Fiona is a dual star, Jack. Already this year she won an All-Ireland Minor A Camogie medal with Cork. She was player of the match in the final. And now Fiona is on the Cork Minor football team that is in the All-Ireland final against Monaghan in Birr next Monday. So superb achievement, and she was honoured, like I said, with a West Cork Sports Award. And there's a full page interview with Fiona in this week's Star. Just to mention too, the night after she got presented with the award, Fiona went out and scored 4-4 for Courseys in the Senior Camogie Championship against Milford, so she is a talent indeed. Cork ladies are also in All-Ireland action this weekend. They take on Tyrone in Ballinasloe on Saturday in an All-Ireland quarter-final. A lot of club action going on too at the moment. The Carberry Camogie team had a great win. We've reported reaction from that. Island Rovers won the Division 3 County Football League. Castlehaven and Castletonbear both lost their league deciders, but we have match coverage. There's been Muskerry, South East, Carberry games. Jack Desmond, boxing interview. Phil Healy does what she does best. She won another national title at the weekend. But not only that, there was a couple of more Bandon medals too, the 4x400 metre relay and Shane Howard in the long jump. So we have all that. So and also Emily Hegarty from Skibbereen won a silver medal at the World Under 23 Rowing Championships in Florida with the women's 4, and Eve Casey, daughter of Dominic, was out there too, and she finished 4th in the double. And that's just a taster, Jack.
And you're telling me this is all in one single edition of the Southern Star Sports section?
It's just one. Talk about value for money.
Value for money. It's all available for only €2.20 if you go into a shop that sells newspapers and pick up a copy. You can't miss it. But of course, if you are listening from abroad or even just a bit further afield, maybe you're living in Dublin, you've had to leave the beautiful environs of West Cork in search of...
And leave the fresh air behind you.
In search of a better paid job perhaps, or love, who knows. But if you have left West Cork and you can't get your hands on a copy of the newspaper, don't forget, you can purchase it for less than €2 per week. When you subscribe online, all you have to do is go to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper.
Speaking of Dublin, Jack, a little birdie tells me you were in Dublin a couple of weeks back for a Westlife concert. I never took you for a Westlife fan, so can you talk us through that? Talk us through the concert itself and your favourite Westlife tune, because to be fair, we're all closet Westlife fans, you know, but you're man enough now to come out and admit it.
Honestly, I have to say it was one of the best nights out I've had in I don't know how many years. I went up with a friend of mine from my secondary school days, my two sisters and my better half, and to be quite honest, it was me and my friend, Michael is his name, who were really enjoying it nearly too much, because this is, while we're talking about our love for Westlife, I might as well admit some cold truths. Me, myself and Michael and two other friends in secondary school, we kind of started off our own little boy band inspired by Westlife.
Brilliant.
This is all true. We went by the name Undefined because we couldn't be defined. Obviously the name speaks for itself. We never quite took off because none of us could sing, but we loved Westlife, we loved Backstreet Boys. We later became big fans of One Direction. So yeah, I had one of the best nights out I've ever had in Croke Park, and I have been to countless amounts of All-Ireland finals. So yeah, Westlife, fantastic. Favourite song? I would probably say the cover of Mandy. That's probably up there. Maybe
we've got the World of Our Own has to be up there. That's
World of Our Own as a party starter. Nothing really comes close. But for me, just growing up, Mandy was the one.
Undefined. Did you ever get off the ground, or
no?
Did you ever play a gig?
Primarily, the gigs we would play would be at underage house parties, and towards the end of the night, when the music was playing and people were up dancing. You know, remember these kind of underage house parties, you know, parents might go away, so one of the girls or one of the lads that have a few people over, we might do a few Westlife numbers. We were usually run out of the place and none of us ever got to shift at the end of the night, which was the plan about being in the boy band. We thought we'd get all the ladies.
That was the reason we started in the first place. But,
exactly.
I'm looking forward to the next Southern Star night out for a rendition of Mandate, and I'll bring you all an update of that as soon as it happens. But thanks again for listening to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Acast, Stitcher or wherever else you listen to the show.
God in one.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.